Hi, my name is David McLeod, and I am a professor, but I'm also a consultant, and I own and operate a consulting firm, where I'm fortunate to work with a collection of some of the most incredible scholars, researchers, behavior analysts, that I have ever met, and I'm excited to come and share just for a couple of minutes a little bit about a conversation that Don and I had, and want to introduce a concept to you. Just sending along a little clip of a video because I'm also sending over a document, and I want to walk you through it just a little bit to introduce the science of hope, and then hopefully set us up a time to talk a little bit more and see if there are some different ways that I could help out in your projects. So, as a tiny bit of introduction, like I said, I am a behavioral researcher, a social and behavioral researcher. I'm also the interim director of the School of Social Work at the University of Oklahoma. But I'm coming to you today as the founder and principal consultant for SPEIR Strategic. We are a consulting firm that have been around for several years. We've grown considerably, and we work with lots of different segments of the community, basically to help organizations learn how to and institute practices of social and behavioral measurement for the purpose of really tapping into the neuroscience and brain science of why people do the things we do, so that we can understand with a lot more complexity what drives motivation, how do we predict success and behavior, and how do we streamline and really tune into the reasons why people will connect with your program or not. So we look at all kinds of different constructs. I was talking the other day with one of our um, clients and a group that's near and dear to my heart, where I was sharing how we were able to measure overall collective wellness in these complex intervention spaces. And by intervention spaces, I'm talking about how, like, when we have multiple different assets that are coming to this community so that we can try to improve wellness in the community, or we have an intervention system that has multiple components, and we're trying to figure out what is the collective impact of all of these components, how and to what degree are people buying in, how do we find these overall measurements uh, that are going to be really effective and transferable that help us demonstrate success. And I come to this from a neuroscience background and a behavior prediction background, where early in my career, I focused more specifically on, like, why is it that human beings will do the worst things that we do? And from that grew over time a better understanding of how do humans overcome incredible adversity or hardship to do the great things that they do. And when we unlock part of this understanding of human behavior and neuroscience, one of the concepts that we really lean into is hope. So I'm going to bring up this document, run through it really quick, just to give you a little bit of an intro, and then I'll mention a couple of different websites where you can learn more about me or SPEIR Strategic, and then hopefully we set up a time to talk really soon. So I'm going to share my screen and the document that I'll be sending over to you. And really, there's a little bit of an intro here, but we'll talk through a couple of concepts just to set up what hope science really is. And I think one of the really important things to get off right off the bat is that when we're talking about measuring hope as a construct that can help us understand how people overcome adversity and how we can predict success and thriving, hope is far more than a wish. So that is an incredibly important construct that we have to unpack and understand. This is a research-based, um, multiple decades of work have gone into this to try to streamline and get us to the point where we can answer how can people overcome great adversity, great economic hardship, hard living conditions, challenging social environments, challenging economies, um, and how can we predict who's going to be successful and who's not, and how we need to shift or change our intervention systems in order to help connect to and stay connected to success. So this is one of the constructs we use. There's a lot more in it, in a quantitative and qualitative kind of mixed methods. We want to be able to measure all those big outcomes, and I think that's what a lot of folks are really good at. For example, we can. It's easier to measure how many revenues are generated, how many out units of output were there, how many jobs created, how much economic impact, what are our graduation rates, what are our training development rates. Um, but when we get to the ROI of how do you get human beings to those outcomes, that's where SPEIR Strategics tends to shine, and that's why people bring us in, because it's we expect that most of our clients can already measure and really have a keen understanding in their very specific area of what it means to be successful in a quantitative way. X amount of units create X amount of economic stability, for example. But how do you engage human beings with an understanding of how human brains work so you can make sure that the energy and resources you are putting in will have the best ROI, the highest likelihood of success, and the best return on investment for your energy and resources? So that's what we do. That's where a lot of this stuff comes from. And let me just go into it for just a second. So I mentioned that hope is not a wish, and it's not. Hope is two basic constructs that we measure simultaneously, agency and pathways. And the simplest way, and you can dig into lots of this stuff, agency is, do you have the willpower to get it done? Are you motivated to get it done? Do you believe that tomorrow can be better? Do you want that to happen? That's agency. Pathways is, do you have the actual, tangible, measurable strategies, specific tools, specific things to do in order to get that done? So we try to measure, we don't try, we do measure how or to what degree people are able to really believe tomorrow can get better and actually have ways to be resourceful and get that done. We set up a whole scoring system that you can read about, we can talk about even more. Um, but why are we scoring this and how have we used it? So a great body of research has been put together. Um, I start off measuring behavior in highly complex ways and now tend to throw hope measurement into almost every project I do, whether I'm working with inner city youth or people who've been involved in the criminal justice system or in workforce development programs. In all of those, I tend to measure hope because the presence or absence of it is a great predictor of how people will face and deal with adversity, how resourceful they will be. We've been able to measure how hope actually predicts grit, how hopefulness predicts resilience, it predicts resourcefulness, it predicts thriving. And it reduces burnout, it helps with health, it helps with purpose, it helps with good decision making, it helps with recovery. And so we've got tons of that stuff in there. So there's also a great body of literature, and we've been able to measure this as well, that hope is something we can talk about in an interpersonal way, a one-on-one. We can talk about David's health specifically as related to his hope, his agency and pathways hope. But it also is a construct that we can measure when we're thinking about organizations, institutions, communities. Um, does the community have a shared idea of what tomorrow can look like? What is their agency and willpower as a group or collective to make that happen? Does a community have distinct operationalized or operationalizable pathways, right? Are there programs that are in place? To what degree do people know about them and believe in them to get that to work? In many interventions, big and small, we can put the whole world in front of people, but if they don't believe that it will work, it's going to be a challenge to get buy-in started. So you need to understand, and what we do is help people understand really how to activate those belief systems if that's needed. And if that's doing good, then we shift over and we focus on really explaining and teaching and setting up those pathways. So this has been proven in the science to work great with cooperatives, work great in entrepreneurial ecosystems, to work across incredibly diverse populations, multiple languages, all that stuff. It still tends to measure really effectively and efficiently. So I guess that's just the high level overview I wanted to throw out there for you. And if it turns out that this is something that could be helpful for you. It's an example of one of the many types of things that we can measure or can help you measure. If it turns out that this is helpful for you and that you can take it and run with it on your own, then I wish from the bottom of my heart that you're successful. And I'm glad to have shared it with you. And I'm glad to have at least engaged in a conversation to help you start thinking about it. If you want to talk about it more, I'm certainly open and eager to do that. So let me know. We can talk about it, and if that is the end of it, that's okay too. If we end up finding ways to partner on things, that's great too. I'm a strong believer that you keep doing good work, you put good things out there, and you help people out. And when the right time comes, the right time comes. We'll be ready for it. So anyway, hope I get to talk to you soon. Um, I'm going to send links to my website, to my personal website, where you look at a whole ton of all the different grants or papers or all that fun academic stuff that you'd like. You can learn a little bit more about my philosophy and my paradigm, how I see the world, how I engage with people, if you're interested in digging into that. But probably more importantly, I'll send a link over to our website for SPEIR Strategic. Um, and it kind of talks about the different types of things we have experience helping organizations with. So look forward to sharing this stuff with you. Look forward to the opportunity to talk to you again some other time. All right. Take care, and I'll see y'all soon.